facility. Then it goes to our Alamance location where it goes to the CNC machining and heat treating processes. And from there, it comes to our Roxborough location where we actually assemble it together. There's a lot of different assembly cells. They put it together and they ship it directly to our customer. Most of our customers, everyone is probably familiar with. Chances are you have our parts in your vehicle because 90% of the vehicle manufacturers do choose GKN Automotive for their parts. So that's a little bit about what my function is here. Over all three of those locations, that's about 2,000 employees. But globally, we have about 27,000 employees and across four different divisions. We also have aerospace, powder metallurgy, and a wheels and structures division.
That's awesome. Thank you, Kevin. And again, that's always the fun facts of my tenure working with manufacturers, right? Most often, folks, they don't recognize those brands, but all of those cars have those components, right? So thank you for mentioning that piece as well, as folks may not be familiar with the company and those kind of things as well. I don't think Keith has joined us back unless I'm missing him somewhere. So what I'm going to do is let's move forward, and then if he joins at any point, I think we can certainly add him in, as we go here with the group. But certainly appreciate everyone kind of tagging along as we've had some of the glitches here for sure. So one of the things that we want to start with, and I think we'll kind of throw this question out to the group initially, is, what are some of the hidden benefits that you've seen around apprenticeship? So, when we talk about apprenticeship, we have obviously a lot of these things that are out in the stream, and folks see obviously work and learn and opportunities to onboard talent and those kind of things. Can you talk a little bit, because this is all around deploying apprenticeship, right? Can you talk a little bit, and maybe Kevin, we'll start with you, some of those hidden benefits that may not be right on the surface, they're not in the front page of the brochure of apprenticeship and those kind of things. Have you found any of that to be true?
Well, for us, one of the major impacts that we've noticed immediately was overall employee engagement and motivation, and just the interest in their own career development and internal career paths. Once we presented this apprenticeship opportunity, it just sort of, you could just see the wheels turning in their head, and they're thinking, okay, so if I do this, I'll get these skills, I'll obtain this certification, and that'll put me in this position to go maybe this direction or that direction. And so just that overall feeling of employee engagement, I think we really noticed that immediately after we really presented the program and started getting people registered into that program.
And Kevin, can you mention a little bit, GKN wise, and obviously with your experience, how many apprentices do you have currently?
Across all three locations, I'm going to estimate we're maybe around 100. Lucinda, you
Oh,
can
wow. Okay, great.
verify that for me. I think we should be at close to that, if not above that
Yes.
amount.
Yeah,
That's awesome.
definitely.
Yeah, that's fantastic to see. I mean, because oftentimes we see folks that have one or two. So when you're talking and mentioning, I just, caught some of your verbiage there, and I just wanted to give everyone an idea of scale, around the group there. Listen, do you want to talk a little bit? I mean, obviously we have a lot of folks. We had some other panelists that couldn't join today, and I know that you work with these folks all the time. Can you talk a little bit about some of those hidden benefits, that are right there?
Sure, sure. Yeah, Josh, right now we currently are working with about over 30 companies at 51 different sites, like with GKN having 3 sites. So some of the feedback that we've had from those employers has been that one of the really impactful parts has been to help standardize their training. They always had internal training, and they've always, done certain things and had some good mentors. But as different mentors would leave, a lot of times that training would fall through the cracks. And so by being able to standardize that training, have the competency checkoffs for the on-the-job training, and to have standardized related training that everyone would take in that occupation, whether it's CNC or tool and die or robotics or manufacturing tech or the additive manufacturing. You know, it just really helped them. And that was something that's really impactful that we keep getting feedback from companies on. It increased their return on investment, increased their retention of employees and their employee engagement, like Kevin mentioned. So those are some of the key takeaways that we've had from companies so far.
That's great. And I see Keith has joined us. Keith, do we have your audio?
You do. You do.
Okay, awesome. Keith, do you want to give a quick introduction of yourself, and then you know, I can kind of catch you up on where we've been. I know we lost you and we got you back, so we appreciate you dialing back in for us.
Yeah, I apologize. Technical difficulties, as they say. My name is Keith Shepard. I'm a senior regional engineering instructor for Mohawk Industries, and I interact with apprentices pretty much, if not daily, weekly, as far as testing, instruction, advisement, and placement after they fulfill their requirements. I've done other things at Mohawk. I've had experience in different divisions and manufacturing plants as far as engineering, computerized maintenance management systems, and reliability engineering supervision. So I've been around a little bit. I've got to know the apprentices pretty well here.
That's awesome. Thank you. And Keith, one of the things that we started just talking about a little bit was specifically talking about some of those hidden benefits, you know, around apprenticeship. And can you see that there, you know, for you to see immediately, like out in the open? Have you found anything where you're like, wow, I didn't think this would be a benefit, but it really has been as you've launched programs?
Well, it's deep and wide, actually. I mean, the farther you go, the deeper you get, the more you realize, hey, we should have done this years ago. Because I think at every avenue we've seen improvement, and the whole as technical abilities improve with the apprentices, that tends to also lead the other people to follow suit and try to up their game a bit. So I think that was an unidentified result of the apprenticeship program.
Awesome. And thank you, Keith. And one of the things that, you know, Lucinda mentioned, you know, standardized of training, you know, and that's one of the pieces that America Makes has been proud to partner on, right, is engaging our membership across industry and academia and even the defense sector. You know, we're working with the defense sector now on some programs, you know, specific to apprenticeship. And it's really a nice trend to see, you know, the DoD and the DoD ecosystem interested in using some of the industry standard and practices and those kind of things where it makes sense, obviously, and those kind of things. If we can, you know, let's talk a little bit about, you know, impact specifically. So, you know, if you were to summarize in one sentence, I know this is always a tricky one for me because one sentence is like, yeah, you have 5 minutes. You know, if you were to say one sentence, apprenticeship has impacted our company in this way. You know what, you know, and I'll start, Kevin, I'll go back to you, you know, maybe at GKN, and talk a little bit, you know, what is kind of that big high flying impact that I think it's made right out of the gate.
So I think I'll go right back again and just say motivation is a big key part of it. And I'm going to say that for not just the new hires, we essentially require it for new employees who come in. But when we started the program, we also required it for the particular role that we were doing this apprenticeship for. We required it for the existing employees as well. And what it does is sort of back to what you just mentioned. You know, you have new employees coming in. They're motivated because they have this defined pathway and these set goals that they know they have to achieve. So it's a very structured way of developing those new hires, and really gives them that direction. I don't know if I'm still being heard or not.
I can hear
So
you.
okay, I just saw
Yeah,
you drop off. All right. And so then for the existing employees, it's sort of a similar situation because they also have this new structure that they know that they can, and these different goals that they can achieve. And so it really just brings up the overall, it's an overall morale boost internally and for the incoming new hires as well. So you asked for one sentence. I think I gave you multiple paragraphs, but
Yeah, that's why I always say, right? It's the simplest answer, but it takes like give me 5 minutes to really dive into it. Keith, I'll throw you back on the spot there. So one liner around impact, and again, it doesn't have to be the one liner, but I mean, what's that one thing around impact to the company that you've seen?
I think a better skill set, all in all. The apprentices that we see graduating, if you will, they have improved their skill sets. I think they've upped our game technically. So company-wide, that's been a great asset. Also, I'd like to say individually, it's really helped them personally to grow, if not only financially, and of course their skill sets and their technical abilities also. But it's really it's positive all the way around.
Yeah, and Keith, can I pull on that string a little bit? I mean, you mentioned financially. I mean, we talked about training and the whole emphasis of knowledge is power, right?
Absolutely.
And we're huge lifelong learning folks, in our mission, right? We often call our K to Gray, super highway, on ramps and off ramps. Obviously, apprenticeship is one of these on ramps, that really both, I think, in the talent pipeline as well as the incumbent worker bucket or awesome opportunities, and so we know the training side of this, right? And that opportunity. Can you talk a little bit, you don't have to obviously give, super detailed, but can you talk a little bit about the financial side for the employee?
Well, considering a high school graduate's going to go out in the world and make, whatever they make, $12, $15 an hour, and they're going to be doing labor and they're going to, be working on shift and that kind of thing. And with the apprenticeship program or with the education they receive, the OJT they get, and the technical abilities they have, then I want to use a cliche, the sky's the limit. But we're seeing some people that is life changing for them. It's really life changing. They're not stuck. They can go back if they choose to and get more education. They can further themselves in engineering or other technical avenues. So it's really a great deal for them. It's a big deal for them.
Yeah, and Kevin, can you talk a little bit about that financial pull from the GKN world?
Yeah, and I'll definitely agree with Keith with that. They're obviously they're motivated a lot by the fact that after they achieve a certain milestone, there's going to be a pay increase associated with that. And then from a GKN standpoint, again, to kind of touch up with what Keith just mentioned, their skills are being upgraded uh, to a certain extent. So once they achieve that milestone, they have also achieved a certain level of qualification, which is going to be good for the company as far as their ability to produce quality parts on time, right? And so you have there are two ways of looking at the finance there. The impact for the employee as far as pay, and then the impact to the company overall as far as better quality products produced on time for the customers.
Yeah, and Lucinda, kicking back to you here. I mean, obviously, you have a large number of companies across the portfolio. Can you talk a little bit to that financial aspect and some of those stories that you have coming out of the portfolio of companies that you engage across the nation?
Yes, yeah, the return on investment piece, there's been lots of different case studies done about that from the Department of Labor and also Case Western University, and we've done our own internal ones with companies. And, at first there's a little bit of heavy lifting to set up an apprenticeship program, but the companies that have done it have all come back and said it was worth it. It was worth the time investment, to work with us as an intermediary and help them set up their program. And as Kevin and Keith said, beneficial to the employees, of course, but really beneficial to the companies as well. They, they have less downtime if it's maintenance technicians and things that are being trained. So that overall is great for the plants when they have a piece of equipment to go down and they have a higher skill level of technicians to get in there and fix it. Better quality parts, less safety issues and safety problems that can cause downtime. So overall, the return on investment is really phenomenal with companies. And like I said, there are a lot of case studies out there that we can send out as a follow-up resource, links if companies would like to, check into that ROI component more. But yeah, on the, just the talking point side, the ROI is definitely worth the investment in apprenticeship in all of those different areas for manufacturers. They've seen, good strides being made and continue to add occupations. You might have one employer that starts with a, just a couple tool and die makers or something, really high skill level occupation, but they just need a few of them. But then they see that it works for that, so they bring on more in their CNC department. And then they may decide to train in their quality department, and even then at the production level with the manufacturing tech. So there's different levels of apprenticeship, and they can build on each other, and that's what causes these pathways that Kevin and Keith were talking about. And so just like going to school to get a degree, and someone builds from an associate to a bachelor's to a master's, they can do that with an apprenticeship. There's entry-level apprenticeship programs, and there's longer-term, highly skilled apprenticeship programs, but they don't start over at each point. They can build that. And that helps the company because it helps retain good people that they can see these career pathways. And so it helps the company retain good people, and it's just, makes it worth that investment because we all know that retention is difficult these days.
Just to add to what Lucinda stated there about the retention, and just to tie that to a specific metric that we've noticed here at GKN. When you improve that retention, you lower that retention rate. Well, increase the retention rate. What you're doing is you're continuing to keep and cycle through those same employees, and you're developing them more and more. And what happens, that directly impacts your OEE because now you have those employees, and they're building their skills continuously. And so that overall equipment efficiency is going to continue to go up because they're always available, and they actually know what they're doing on that machine versus when you have a high attrition rate, you're constantly trying to bring people from the bottom and, get them all the way upskilled. And then if they leave again, you're never quite improving that OEE, especially if it's for a particular machine manufacturing cell or a manufacturing line that you're trying to completely staff. If you constantly have new people on that line who are not building those skills, then your OEE is probably going to remain somewhere around like 30%, very low, because you're trying to get them skilled so you can improve it up to maybe like a 60 or 70%. That'll never happen if you continuously have new people on that line. You never retain those people and have their skills to build so that they're productive on that line. So I just wanted to tie that to a metric that I think most people in manufacturing are familiar with.
Yeah, I think that retention point is critical, right? And it kind of goes with kind of that theme that we've been talking about, right? Which is morale, which is value, which is the financial aspect, training, knowledge, all of these kind of things. I think that we've or that I should say you all have woven into the fabric of value to the company, right? And those kind of things, and even value into the employee. When we talk nuts and bolts, right? And we say, hey, getting an apprenticeship off the ground at a company specifically, and those kind of things. Obviously, I know we have Lucinda on the panel, and I know all of you are partnering with the Robert C. Byrd Institute. But can you talk a little bit about what RCBI and their partnership has been able to do, and kind of how you get started and how that has been, a help or those kind of things, or where has it helped you the most? And maybe we can talk a little bit around that. And Keith, I'll throw it back to you, maybe to kick us off on that one.
Okay. I came in about a year after apprenticeship started at our company. We've been going 7 years now. So on the onset, I know they were helping us with testing and that kind of thing. And that was really point us in the right direction as where training needed to take place and what we needed to do and how we needed to do it. And that's just a great thing to help with. I mean, it was looking at this whole apprenticeship program. It was pretty daunting to just think about, okay, how we're going to do this and what we're going to do. And RCBI and Lucinda were just great in that, and they steered us in the right direction and got us off the ground. And it's they've been a big help. And I think now as we continue and we keep going and we keep reaching out and asking, well, we need this, and they're glad to help. So a partner that can help you in apprenticeships is just there's no way around it. You have to have it. You can't do it alone. I don't feel it's too daunting, like I said.
And Kevin, I mean, what has been your experience there, with the assistance in partnership with Robert C. Byrd?
So what I'll say is one of the, I guess, barriers in the past to being involved with apprenticeships was the thought was this very time consuming. There's a lot of paperwork involved, and who has time? Who has enough time to invest in something else, some new initiative? So that's always been a barrier. And so when RCBI reached out to me, more specifically Lucinda and her team, they made it clear that, like what she mentioned earlier, the heavy lifting, that they do all the heavy lifting. And when she made it clear that they handle all this, I mean, there's still some, you still have to do something on your side, but they take care of a lot of that heavy lifting. And so there's a lot of free time for you to actually really invest in this and be involved with it. So they were very supportive, and they're the ones who reached out to me to really present this idea to me. And so that partnership is invaluable, very valuable for certain, because if they didn't reach out to me, we probably wouldn't have these 100 apprentices at this point.
And Kevin, how long did it take you? You have 100, right? What was the timeline to get to 100 apprentices? What did it look like?
I'm gonna estimate maybe about within a 3 to 4 month period. And really, it might be a little longer than that. It's just an estimate. But once we were sort of sold, we were able to sell it to our plant directors and some of their value stream managers, and they sort of got on board with it. Then really it was just a matter of then just getting everyone registered, right? So you have to just fill out the paperwork, and then get it back to RCBI. So if we just take it right to the point where we were sold on it and we decided to register people, I would say that window was very small. It was probably maybe within a few weeks. I think we got a lot of people registered.
And Kevin, I don't know that we've talked specific scale on your side with Mohawk. How many apprentices do you have, and can you talk a little bit about your ramp up, to that mass that you have now?
Okay. We started with some highly skilled positions in mechatronics. So our mechatronics techs, we kind of started slow in that area. And I'm going to say we have like 70 or so in the past 7 years. But now we've started also in transportation and supervision and some other areas. So that's coming along pretty rapidly. But those highly skilled people, we had kind of a slow start, part by design, because we don't need a lot of those technicians at any particular plant, although we're serving quite a few plants. So we do need those people, but that's 7 years. Yeah, it's been 7 since we started. And I anticipate that to really start picking up now that we're doing other areas besides just the mechatronics.
Oh, great, and thank you. And again, I see some questions and different things in the window. Feel free to start, dropping them in there anytime, and we're kind of pulling them into the conversation as we kind of move along. Lucinda, kicking back to you at RCBI, can you talk a little bit about a typical timeline? I mean, we have some companies on the line. Obviously, we have some community colleges and some workforce folks and those kind of things as I look down the attendee list. Can you talk a little bit about timeline from, hey, first call to we have a signed up apprentice?
Right. Well, and there are a lot of variables there, Josh. And we do work with community colleges. We're working with quite a few, and even some community college systems where we're consulting and helping their workforce folks, set up apprenticeship programs. So we can work with companies or, with other intermediaries and related training providers to do that. But a lot of it falls back to what Kevin was saying is at the company level. But if it's an occupation that's already an approved occupation by the Department of Labor, and so we're doing about 20 occupations now under our standards. But there's over 1,000 apprenticeable occupations altogether under DOL. So if it's already an approved occupation, and all you're doing is customizing it to that company's, products and equipment, and to their actual situation, then it could be stood up very quickly. I mean, we'll stand up an apprenticeship in a couple of weeks, but the company folks have to be on board. Now, sometimes when I'm working with small companies, and we have some that are single owners that have maybe 15 to 20 people working for them, mom and pop shops. We set them up very fast because the decision making is at that one level, and once they're on board, they're doing it. But at the bigger companies like GKN, like Mohawk, Weyerhaeuser, where we have multiple plants, you do have multiple layers. You have legal departments, you have corporate VPs and others, and that's great. It's wonderful working with the big companies too. So we have small, medium, and large, but usually there's a few more decision makers that have to be pulled into those conversations. So we have, several calls and WebExes to explain the process and to get everybody on the same page and answer corporate questions. So it just really does depend, but you could set one up very quickly, like I said, within a couple of weeks if you have the decision makers in the room that can either, say yes or no, or push it up or down to the decision makers at each level. And like Kevin has done, I mean, he has really done a great job with that. With Mohawk, we started with the plant here in West Virginia years ago. Keith was saying 7 years ago. Started out with, I think, 6 apprentices, and they liked that model so well that then they start and working with community colleges and the career and tech education centers. They have a whole gambit of feeder groups and training providers depending on where their plants are. So we've had technical trainers out in Washington State with them, as well as in Arkansas and Georgia and Tennessee. But they've gone one at a time with each plant and got that buy-in with each plant and that plant manager. And so it just depends on, like I say, which way it's being worked within the company.
Yeah, and Lucinda, that was a question that came in the chat. Is the training that's provided, is it on site at the companies, or is it on site at RCBI? Is it virtual? Can you talk a little bit about that? And then I have one follow-up as well.
Sure. Good question. Yes, apprenticeships have 2 main components, okay? There's 4 components altogether, but the 2 main training components are on-the-job training, and then the other components related to training. So the on-the-job training is on the job, just like it says. They have to be an employee of the company. They can be a part-time employee or a full-time employee. So if you are doing youth apprentices that are, coming over after school or working weekends, you can do part-time. But they do have to be an employee of the company. and they're getting on-the-job training. And the on-the-job training, we just sort of help to standardize with that company based on the occupation, on the equipment, on their quality checkpoints, so we sort of standardize those competency checkoffs in the standards for that company and for that occupation. And then on the related training side, we do work with the Tooling University, which is owned by the Society of Manufacturing Engineers, which you're very familiar with, Josh. They are one of the top training providers for manufacturers in the United States. Over half of the Fortune 500 companies use them. And so we have found their curriculum to be very beneficial on the related training side. So that's the biggest piece, the related training, because it can be done on the apprentice's time at home, or some companies allow them to do it at work. There again, under wage and hour laws, you don't have to pay them for that related training time, which is about 3 hours a week that an employee will spend on the online curriculum piece. And then RCBI does also provide other types of training, especially with the pandemic going on. Instead of going on site like we have done in the past, we've been doing more web-based training where they sign on and actually still have an instructor online. So we've done some PLC training, getting ready to do some GD&T that way, and some Mastercam and some other trainings virtually. We've done SolidWorks that way. So just depending on, and then our apprentice companies can have apprentices sign on and conduct that training as well. And then they can also work with local schools. If they have a local school, like Keith has down there in Georgia, where he's at, they have a great local career and technical education center and community college right beside each other. And he teaches for both of those schools, so they get credit, and they also get credit towards their apprenticeship program. So it really is, it's different at each site. Some sites we're doing all the related training online and through web-based virtual training, but then other locations have other mixes. So that's there again up to the company and their local resources, but we help them to set that up and to put it together as a total package. And there's funding available also, I better throw in. Besides our grant, there are related training funds from the workforce investment boards at each local region, and also state expansion grants for apprenticeship. So employers can also tap into those to get reimbursed for money that they spend on apprenticeship. So they get a good return on investment, but they also can a lot of times get the training for very low cost or for free.
Great, thank you. And I'm going to throw one more question out there, and then we're going to let Ben talk a little about his experience here in the last 15 minutes as well. And just a real quick response, maybe Kevin and Keith on this one. And someone had thrown this into the Q&A, right? Which is the response that trainers and supervisors make it go, now that they have apprentices, have you seen like a richer engagement from those folks from the training supervisor level now that they have the apprentices kind of growing up, into the pipeline as well? And just a quick response, and then we'll get Ben talking a little bit about his experience as well.
I'll start off real quick. I'll say as far as our program, we are in our beginning stages. So we're setting a lot of those supervisors up as administrators in the system to begin with. So knowing that they're going to be in that system as an administrator, and that they need to approve OJT hours and sort of monitor and take an active role in scheduling the apprentices to complete some of that training on site during their shift, or if there's going to be off the hours, so that they're definitely more involved now because of this program than they were prior to it.
I think that the supervisors definitely got more on board as they went along, because they were kind of standoffish on the onset. Here's a new employee, and I have to keep all these records and I have to do all this, that, and the other. But as they found out that the employee is, the apprentice is responsible for keeping their hours. They just have to verify those hours and select which category it goes into, whether it be PM or electrical or PLC or pneumatic, hydraulic, whatever. So they found out that, hey, it's really not this bad. And this guy is kind of learning this, so I'll use him over here. I'll use him here. And he needs this experience. And so as that goes on, the supervisors kind of relax and got more into it, I think, as far as, yeah, we'll use this guy. He's not just a student. He's actually an employee, and he actually knows what he's doing.
That's great. That's great. And thank you both, and appreciate everyone on the panel, obviously sharing some of your experience, and I think it's fantastic for folks to hear, right, as well. And Ben, I want to pivot to you now and have you kind of come off mute. I know you're on mute over there. Have you come off mute and talk a little bit about your experience going through an apprenticeship program and kind of share that with us and walk us through and what's the good, the bad, the ugly, as they say, and those kind of things.
Well, it started out, and for me, it started out in 2018 here at Level 1. RCBI showed up and offered the program to about 15 to 20 of us. I thought it was a good choice to expand my industry knowledge and my knowledge in my company, and so I took the opportunity on. Really, the most impactful thing in the start of this whole situation was education and training. Obviously, I'm a government sales representative at Level 1 Fasteners, so taking this apprenticeship gave me a complete 360-degree view and knowledge on how we do things and quality respects when it comes to fasteners and many other things like lean manufacturing and Six Sigma and all that stuff. It covered such a wide range of topics, and everything that I learned, I felt like I could apply and bring back to the company. So I thought that was beneficial, and that kept me motivated to keep learning and keep doing the classes. So I want to think like one of the questions you presented to me was that some of the negative aspects that I got prior to starting this, and a lot of people I heard in the industry was basically telling me that it wasn't necessary, or you're just doing this, you're not really going to get anything from it, this and that. That's the naysayers out there that believe that training isn't necessary and continual improvement isn't necessary, and I believe the opposite of that. I think we have to continually learn and engage in our industries, in our companies, to be able to evolve and to expand into the 21st and 22nd centuries. And one of the ways we select participants for the apprenticeship program here at Level 1 Fasteners is we offer it to new hires, obviously, and we do a volunteer status because we've had people that's been working for us for 25 to 30 years at Level 1 Fasteners, so we give them the option. It very much is an extra load to your 40-plus hour work week, but like I said, thanks to RCBI and Apprenticeship Works, they are very good at keeping you motivated and keeping you on schedule. There was a couple, hiccups and speed bumps along the way, taking the classes, and all I would have to do was reach out to one of them, and everything would be completely fine. So I think they're crucial when you're doing this, and then you do come across some hiccups, and you just give RCBI or Apprenticeship Works or America Makes a call, and everything seems to get worked out, and it was a pleasure experience. I mean, it took me 2 years to finish it. I had planned on finishing it in 1 year. However, some personal issues arose, and I had to be, out of work for a couple months, so I had to start it back up when I came back. So that delayed me a little bit, but as I said, Robert C. Byrd Institute was very helpful with me and getting my classes rescheduled and making sure I wasn't duplicating anything and all that. So I enjoyed it, but you know, as the other panelists had spoken, it takes a great deal of motivation. Like I said, most of us are working 40 to 60-hour weeks, so this was an extra, basically like an extra college options in the evening, or you know, wherever I could fit in a class time. At first, I tried to hold about 2 to 5 classes a week, and that didn't work out with my schedule. So I continually had to adjust and stay motivated to get the classes done. It was hard at times, and there was times I didn't want to do a class, but I would just sit down and make myself dedicate an hour to 2 once every other day or so, and just get it done. So it was a lot on the plate, but you got to stay motivated and get it done. And now I've got the certificate from a Department of Labor saying I'm a quality control technician. So I definitely think it's beneficial for people.
Josh, I think you're muted.
That would help. Thank you. Yeah, I mean, how has that process been, going through the formal, credentialing process for you?
You mean at the end, once you're done with everything?
Yes.
Yeah. I really had very little to do. I mean, once you complete your courses, you contact your liaison at Robert C. Byrd or wherever, RCBI, and within 2 to 3 weeks, everything was completed and I had it in the mail. So I didn't really do too much after you complete the apprenticeship, other than just letting RCBI know that you're done and the hours are in.
That's great. That's great. And one piece of advice, Ben, to you, to companies or folks that are looking to start apprenticeship, if you could say, hey, from an apprentice to you, a piece of advice or one piece of, one thought out to folks if they're considering, building a program.
First thing is, I noticed, because we've got about 15 to 20 here at level 1 still, and now that I'm completed it, I've started to train and be mentors to some of the other guys. You have to stay motivated. If you don't, this project can linger on, and I'm a little more motivated than most people, so I like to get things done. I like to learn and expand my horizons as far as education and my professional knowledge. And this did that for me, and it took a little less than 2 years. And I don't know how I would have learned some of this stuff otherwise. So my advice is to get in there, get universally trained, learn as much as you can, get as many qualifications as you can, and that will benefit you specifically in your career and your company.
That's awesome. That's awesome advice. And as we have 5 minutes left, Kevin, Keith, Lucinda, same question. Let's wrap up on that note. One thought, one piece of advice to a company that's saying, hey, is apprenticeship for me? Question mark. Is this the right move? One piece of advice from folks that are doing the work. Can you throw something out there? And let's go ladies first. Lucinda, we'll let you jump in first. Now you're on mute, Lucinda. I got you back.
You did, thank you. One of the things that I would say would be just to do the investigation, talk to us or talk to a local training provider, but talk to someone at Department of Labor, Office of Apprenticeship, but we're always glad to talk to anybody and make connections, like I said, for companies at local levels. But just investigate it for yourself, because there's a lot of misconceptions out there about apprenticeship. And, some of those misconceptions hold companies back because they think it's something that it's not, or they think it might involve entities that it doesn't. So just talk about it and see what it can do for your company and for your employees.
Great. And let's go to Kevin, and then Keith will end with you.
Okay. I'll say one thing you want to definitely do is get buy-in from the top down. So make sure you, and I did this with Lucinda and her team, make sure you get them in a meeting with your plant directors. If you have value stream managers, add them in that same meeting, or any supervisors, however your structure is set up. Because you're gonna need that top-down support. If you don't have that support, then you can pretty much forget about it really taking that traction, getting that traction that it needs. And then last thing I would say is with this particular program that we're doing with Apprenticeship Works, it's an online, the formal side of the training is online. So I definitely want to make sure that you're capable of online training, which we weren't. So we had to really scramble to get some computers and stations set up for that. So just make sure you already have, if it's online, make sure you're set up to accommodate that, and then definitely try to get that buy-in from the top down.
I agree totally with Kevin. The buy-in is essential. Without it, without buy-in, you can almost forget anything like apprenticeships or anything else. However, I would say if you're skeptical about apprenticeships, just view the history of apprenticeships. They've been around a long time. They've done a lot of good. They work in the medical field. They work in the electrical field. They work in most any field. So apprenticeships, I would encourage for the companies out there, for their investment in their employees, and it's going to pay off. It's going to pay off in the end because the technical expertise is going to be there, and uptime is going to increase, and ROI, and we can go on and on. But I'm a firm believer in apprenticeships.
That's great. Thank you so much. And Lucinda, just to highlight, obviously America Makes focused on additive manufacturing, right? And we're extremely proud and excited to have launched the first additive manufacturing technician apprenticeship. And I see those printers behind you over there too, wink, wink. And that's been part of our work with RCBI and getting to know them, obviously, and the program and those kind of things. But as you can see up here on the screen, as Jenna's pulled up for us, RCBI has apprenticeship programs across the board, and growing this list as well. So feel free to reach out. We're going to send a follow-up note. We were obviously recording this, and we'll be sharing that as well. But we'll follow up and send you some materials, as well as contact information as well, and how to get started. And we kind of have that simple guide as well. So looking forward to that. My contact information is below here as well. So you will see, contact, email, phone number here for America Makes. For myself, we'll be following up with Lucinda and the RCBI team, as well as our panel today, so that you can kind of follow up, talk to folks, ask some more detailed questions and those kind of things. We are at 1:59. As I mentioned earlier, I certainly appreciate everyone bearing with us. Some technical glitches, some link issues as we ramped up today. But certainly appreciate everyone taking time out of your afternoon or your lunch, depending on where you're at in time zone, to spend some time talking apprenticeship with us today. Thank you so much. Appreciate all of the hard work and the interest and those kind of things. Hard work of the panel, interest from our attendees, and looking forward to following up and getting some calls and meetings scheduled to launch apprenticeship right in your community.
Thank you, Josh. Appreciate it. And everyone.
Absolutely.
Thanks much.
Okay,
Bye-bye.
we'll see you.